Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 22nd of September. I'm Derek Clark. I'm delighted to say we're joined this morning by a man who watched Rangers defeat Real Betis by a goal to nil at Ibrox last night. Euan Robertson, how we doing, Euan?
Yeah, good mate. Slightly tired. It was a late finish last night by the time got back from Ibrox and shut down the laptop. There's quite a lot to do in terms of post-match. I think it was at 1:30 when I finished up. But there's nowhere I'd rather be early on a Friday morning, Derek, than talking to you, my man.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff. As Euan says, there's lots of content both on the YouTube channel and on the website, folks, from last night. There's the press conference from Michael Beale, Chris Jack caught with Borna Barisic in the mix zone. We'll also have other mix zone interviewees popping up on the YouTube site throughout the day as well. And there's plenty of reaction on the site to keep you entertained throughout the course of the day. Euan, it was a big win last night for Rangers. It felt like that. It was a bit of a scrappy game, you could say, especially in the first half, but second half Rangers came out and I think they were fully deserving of their 1-0 win. Don't care who scored. I know that Davies gave it to Abdallah Sima, but I think that was a huge win in terms of not only Rangers, of course, we want to start the European campaign with a victory, but for Michael Beale, who has been under a serious amount of pressure.
Yeah, firstly, it was definitely a deserved win. Manuel Pellegrini came through and done his post-match interview last night, and he said that he didn't feel Rangers deserved to win, which I thought was a load of rubbish, to be honest. I thought first half it was pretty even game. Obviously, Ravi Matondo had that brilliant chance after, what was it, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And after that, I thought Rangers were not poor in possession, but they were sloppy in possession at times. Betis, started to have a little bit of the ball. I don't think they overly threatened Jack Butland in the first half at all. There was that one kind of fingertip save, but other than that, I thought Rangers defended really well. Not just in the first half, but I think the second half they defended really well as well. But I mean, I thought they dominated Betis for a large spell. The second half, there was kind of constant pressure, and that yielded a goal eventually. I think I was discussing this last night. I'm not sure what the guys in the comments think, but I think that second half performance, in my opinion, is comfortably Rangers' best performance of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a best win for Michael Beale. I know some said it was his first big meaningful win. I think Servette was a meaningful win, I've got to say, but that felt like a big one for him. Listen, it doesn't mean that he's not under pressure. Now he has to pick up a victory on Sunday against Motherwell, or else it'll be intensified once again. Let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. Firstly, Chris Redhand says, drank way too much for the first 30 minutes for the wrong reasons, drank a lot more for the right reasons after that. In terms of the formation, I wanted to get your point on this. Euan, Big Phil raises a point. He says, stick with the one striker. We played well with this formation, of course, with the two wide players in Sima and Matondo, Roof up front. He was sort of, wouldn't say starved of opportunities, but he found it difficult, especially in the first half. But I thought he led the line really, really well. I think it was the right option to have him up front as opposed to Cyril Dessers, who we haven't really seen much in terms of why he should deserve to start and lead the line for Rangers. But that one striker being deployed on European nights, I think definitely. Euan, however, domestically, would you be going along with that one?
I think it just depends on the opposition, to be honest. Kamar Roof, I think you've still got to be a little bit careful about him with his fitness. I think it's great that he's back in form, and he didn't score last night, but I think he's been desperately unlucky in his last 3 games. There was the offside call against the foul from Dessers against Celtic, which obviously led to the Roof goal. There was the offside at the weekend, and last night, just before the goal by Davies or Sima, whoever you think got the final touch, Claudio Bravo made an incredible save from Kamar Roof at close range just before the ball went in. So I think you've got to be careful with Roof in terms of his fitness. I don't think will he play on Sunday against Motherwell? You think he would? They might kind of just monitor his fitness. Is obviously a game next midweek as well, and then 3 home games come up in quick succession. But I liked it. Yeah, I liked it in Europe. I think having that pace and Matondo and Sima from a kind of wider position definitely works in Europe, where You think that teams are going to come out more than a lot of teams in domestically do, and they'll give space for Rangers to attack, especially in the away games as well, when the onus will be on them, Betis, Prague and Limassol to maybe have a go at Rangers. That will leave space. So to have the pace in the wide areas will be important. I think it looked good last night, especially in the second half. And I thought Beale done Beale. So tired I am, Derek. I thought Ruth led the line very well. I'm not sure Michael Beale would do such a good job, to be honest.
Yeah. Denzel with a point here. He says, can't say I was impressed by Betis. We weren't perfect, but we are certainly improved. I think, listen, they're not Real Madrid or Barcelona, Euan, but they're a decent outfit in La Liga. They're managed by a very experienced manager. A bit of saltiness, as you mentioned, in his post-match press conference. But I think a win over any La Liga side will be most welcomed, especially given the circumstances that Rangers find themselves in at the moment. They need something to latch onto. I think that's 2 wins now on the bounce, 2 clean sheets. It's small steps at this point in time, isn't it? But that certainly will go a long way in easing some of the supporter frustrations.
Yeah, I mean, the clean sheets are important. I'm sure we'll go on and talk about individuals, and especially Ben Davies, who I thought was outstanding last night in more detail. But I don't know what you think, Derek, but I kind of wrote it in my piece last night that heading to the game and you get the sub over from Partick and you speak to a couple of fans and you get a sense of things, and obviously you got friends that are Rangers fans and you speak to people on the ground. There seemed to be a kind of lack of excitement ahead of the game. And I don't think, I think I said apathy last night, but I mean, I don't think there was that sort of, well, this is another European campaign, excitement about it. You look at Rangers' record in the Europa League and it's very good. I mean, it seems crazy to think that, last night's game was the first game in the competition since Seville. It was the last game, the first game since at Ibrox in the competition since, that night at Leipzig when the atmosphere was, as good as it's ever been at Ibrox, arguably. When Rangers qualified for the final and John Lundstrum's song reverberated around the stadium, and there wasn't that sort of sense of excitement last night. But I mean, I think especially in the second half when Rangers were applying that pressure, that the crowd really got behind the team and you kind of drove them on to the victory. And I think the Europa League campaign is something to look forward to. It's obviously been a lot of negativity, understandably so, after that Celtic result, which was having that international break with the 2 weeks with no game and everyone kind of dwelling over the Celtic results and the Celtic result and what happened there. It was understandable. There was going to be a lot of criticism, and I think that some of the performances as well weren't great. But I think last night shows that there's definitely reasons to be optimistic.
Yeah, it's got a similar feeling when before the game to the season Rangers did get to Seville. Of course, if you remember, put out of the Champions League qualifiers, and then they beat Alishkert to qualify for the group stage. But was that sort of feeling that we wanted to be in the Champions League and we're in the Europa League again? The Rangers lost their first 2 games, if you can remember, to Lyon and Sparta Prague, and then went on, and the rest is history, as they say. So hopefully that's a little bit of an omen, but certainly a good positive start for the club last night. Right, let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. You mentioned there John Lunstrum, John Adams with a point here, Euan. Lunstrum for the big European nights. He certainly does seem to revel when the Thursday nights at Ibrox under the lights. A few sloppy passes, it's fair to say, but that was much more like the John Lunstrum that we've seen in the tail end of that Seville season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a John Lunstrum fan. Anyone that watches this will know that by now. I think he gets a little bit too much criticism at times. The first half, I thought his passing was poor at points, but I thought he had a really important role to play last night. He was in there alongside Cifuentes, who I didn't think had his best game by any means, and Tom Lawrence, who I thought was good before he came off. But I thought, Cifuentes and Lawrence obviously haven't played a lot of football. Lawrence hasn't played a lot of football recently. Cifuentes is still getting to grips with kind of demands of being a Rangers player. So to have Lundstrum in there, I thought he had a really important role to kind of monitor that midfield and kind of be the experienced head in there. And I thought he was very good. I don't think the best on earth song was going to come out at any point last night. I think it might be too early for that, but I thought he had an important role to play last night. And I think he's I think he's more suited to the European stage where games are more end to end, and he can use his athleticism. Sometimes I think when he plays domestically, he's not the type of player who's unbelievable on the ball, who's going to break down defences. Yes, as Mark and Gary were saying, there was a couple of sloppy moments from Lunstrum, but I thought overall he had a very good game.
Yeah, I think it certainly came on to a game. And a point here as well, I wanted to raise up, and you mentioned him, Euan. I don't know if the manager touched on it in his post-match press conference, Tommy Scott, with the point, any news on Lawrence's injury, lads? We heard it was precautionary at the time, but did they expand on that in the press conference, Euan?
Michael Beale said he'll provide a definitive update. Probably you will know if he features against Motherwell, but he hopes it's cramp. Michael Beale, Tom Lawrence wanted to continue last night. He wanted to play on, but understandably with his injury history that Rangers didn't take any risks. So I think fingers crossed it'll be cramp rather than a muscle injury, which could often occur when players come back from these long-term absences. But the hope will be that it was just cramp, and then hopefully he can feature at the weekend. I thought he looked good in spells. A couple of nice moments from Tom Lawrence, and he's obviously a quality player, isn't it? It's just a case of getting back to full fitness. I was surprised that he started last night, Derek, because
so was I.
Just the fact that he'd been out for over a year. I think St John's game was his first start in about a year. So to play 2 starts in 4 or 5 days, I was surprised that he started, but I think he done quite well again last night.
Yeah, it was a positive lineup, and I was happy to see that lineup. I've got to admit. Right, let's get to Ben Davies, of course. Fantastic performance from him. Michael raising the point here. Morning, guys. Ben Davies was a rock last night. Superb display, and echoed by Jim. He says, thought Davies looked assured, pleased for him. He's someone like Lawrence that we haven't seen much. He came in against St Johnstone, Euan, and did well, and thought he was fully deserving of keeping his shirt last night. And I've got to say, that was probably the best performance I've seen in a Rangers jersey from Ben Davies. Let's hope we can kick on from that. What did you make of him?
Yeah, it was the best player on the pitch last night. 2 clean sheets in a row when Goldson and Davies have played together, and Jack Butland continues to impress behind him. I thought he was really assured as well. The thing with Davies, and we were saying this all summer, that from speaking to people very close to him, at no point did he want to leave Rangers. And I thought he got a lot of criticism for that mentality and having that stance. But I mean, I don't know how people in the comments, but why would you leave Rangers to go and play at Stoke? No disrespect to Stoke, if there's any Stoke fans watching, but you've got 50,000 massive club in Rangers, European nights, or you go to Stoke. You know what I mean? And listen, I'm slagging people from Stoke a little bit here, but I mean, why would you want to live in Stoke when you can live in Glasgow as well? So I think there's
wow.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of factors here as well. He's obviously on decent money too, Ben Davies. But I mean, he obviously felt, and he did feel this, that he could break back into the Rangers side and get a place in that starting lineup. And I think that mentality is quite commendable, to be honest. He's not. He had full belief in his ability that he could get back into the team, and I think at the moment you'd start him alongside Connor Goldson. His record with Goldson's pretty impressive domestically, so I mean, hopefully he can build on that in the European stage as well. I think having that left-footed centre back playing the left-hand side, there's huge advantages to that as well in terms of progressing the ball from the back. And I like Davies behind Goldson. I think that'll be a centre back partnership that goes forward. I think Davies still has things to prove. I think a lot of the criticism maybe stemmed from that performance against Celtic last season. We had an absolute shocker against Celtic. But I mean, look at John Souttar. I think Souttar's been really good for Rangers this season in 95% of the things he does. But he's made high profile errors and lots of games that have led to goals and ultimately proved costly. And I think the main one was obviously the one against Kilmarnock at the start of the season when the ball got kind of trapped under him. But there's been a number of errors that Souttar's had which have led to goals. So I think that Davies deserves to start.
Yeah, do you think that just on Souttar there, Euan? Do you think that's maybe a result of the mistakes that he's playing on that left-hand side? He can play there, but it's not his natural position.
Yeah, he's definitely more suited to play on the right-hand side, and he can bring the ball forward well from the left. He still uses the ball quite well on the left. I think the majority of his errors seems to have came from misjudging kind of high balls. You look at the Servette away one where he kind of misjudged the header and Servette went on to score. Obviously, the Kilmarnock one was similar. It was a kind of throw in that he misjudged the ball travelling in the air. I think that's been a kind of weakness to his game. There's been a couple more, but I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment. But I think Suter's been good this season in the majority of things he does, and it's great to see him back fit. But at the moment, I think that Davies deserves to start.
Yeah, totally agree. Aldo says, Ben Davies, sorry I said you were crap. The Well Off fans would have came to that conclusion. But certainly last season, but I think he's been terrific since coming into the side this term. And Steve-O said, who'd have thought we'd be celebrating a win and praising Ben Davies of all people? Thursday nights are Rangers nights. Just on Stoke, Michael raising a point. He says, talking of Stoke, I see Port Vale have had a new drainage system put in. That's good to know. I'm going there in just over a week. So thank you for that, Michael. I look forward to seeing that in full operation.
Hopefully there's no fans listening there that can give you some stick. I have been to Stoke, so I mean, I'm not being disrespectful at all, but I just think Rangers is a far bigger club than Stoke. Rangers are a far bigger club than Stoke, and Glasgow's a better city than Stoke. So I mean, I can understand why Davies wasn't champing at the bit to get away.
Yeah, especially I used to cover them quite a fair bit when they were in the Premier League when Mark Hughes was the manager and ironically Jack Butland was in goals, and they were a much more attractive proposition playing for them then than what they are now. Tam Brown with a point. It proves we need to be patient with players. Davis and Matondo could have been kicked out by now. So that's his point of view on that one. There's also an interesting point as well on the manager when he came in, just on Bailey Rice, Euan, which I thought was quite interesting. Logan Payne with the point. Interesting comments on Bailey Rice last night. Could we see him play on Sunday? He was asked about Bailey, and he says he has to be careful with him in terms of introducing him to the madhouse, he calls it, when he was talking about the Rangers squad. He says he's only 16, turns 17 in October time, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. But he's certainly waxing lyrical of him. He's a special talent. Euan, are we seeing him at the weekend?
It's interesting you use the word special, because if there's a second part of Michael Beale's press conference where I use that word as well, and he warned me to be careful. I think it was a heck of a player, he said, and I kind of paraphrase that into special. But yeah, look, Bailey Rice is a top talent. With Rangers, his kind of problems at centre mid at the moment with injuries, with Raskin being out and Cantwell being out, it opens up the possibility for Bailey Rice to get some minutes. And he's only 16 years old, but I think he's good enough to play in some of these domestic games. And I think Michael Beale said he's ready to.
Yeah.
Also came from Motherwell, so it'll be interesting to see if he plays again on Sunday as well. And it'll be another interesting dynamic because young Lennon Miller, son of former footballer Lee Miller, has been playing regularly in the Motherwell team this season. I think he's only 16, 17. He looks another top talent as well. So it'll be quite an interesting dynamic to see them play against each other at the weekend. Will he start against Motherwell? I'd be surprised if he did, but I think he'll get minutes on Sunday. He's a top player. Left-footed. He's only 16, but when you watch him play, he plays with a maturity well beyond his years. He uses the ball really well. His passing between the lines is excellent as well. I think he's a player that nobody wants to hear this, but he's a player who could maybe earn Rangers a good few quid in the future as well. I think it's for Michael Beale, it's about protecting them, not throwing them in too early. They called Ibrox a madhouse last night, which it can be at times. There's a lot of pressure on players, but it's about finding the balance between getting him the minutes that he needs for his development and also not throwing him in too early and exposing him. But I'd be surprised if he didn't get some minutes at the weekend.
Yeah, big things expected of young Bailey Rice. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him in a Rangers jersey. I seen Johnny was liking them last night on that clip to Nemanja Vidic. Not like anything to put pressure on the young lad or anything like that, but if he's anywhere as near as good as Nemanja Vidic, then Rangers have got a player on their hands, that's for sure. But got a bright future ahead of him. Logan also raising the point. He says, I think you mentioned Lovelace too. Did he, Euan?
Put me on the spot there.
I don't think he did he?
No, and obviously he did mention it in that answer. I can't really. Obviously, there's an embargo for the. So there's no.
Yeah.
So I can probably say this as well. There's no press conference today.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's usually a press conference on a Friday. At Auchenhowie, because the game was Thursday night and Rangers are playing against on Sunday. Due to the quick turnaround, there'll be no press conference today. So Michael Beale answered a couple of extra questions, specifically on the Motherwell game in his post-match press conference, and that will be embargoed until I think it's 12 o'clock today. So the second half of that press conference will go up where he talks about a number of things again, and I think there's an extra player was put up as well. So obviously there's no press conference today because usually we'll have that on the channel, but that won't be there today. So I think 12 o'clock you'll get some more content from last night where he talks about a number of things. Looking ahead to that game, it makes sense. It's just too much of a turnover to have that game Thursday night and have the press conference early on a Friday.
Yeah. And thanks to Connor for correcting me. It's not Vidic, it's Matic, of course. So thank you for that, Connor. It's too early in the morning after a late one last night. Let's get to a few more comments that are coming in. Well, first of all, this is a nice one just from Andy Davey. He says, went to the museum yesterday and spent 2 hours in there. Absolutely awesome. Followed by a great night at Ibrox. Lunstrum was good on Saturday as well. Have you been to the museum, Euan?
I went. I was in a work capacity. It was when Danilo was done his first interview. We got a wee look around before that. I was really impressed by it. It's quite modern as well. A lot of modern technology in there as well. So I think it's definitely worth a visit for anyone who's around. And it's great to have those things around the stadium, isn't it? Look at Edmondson House and having the bar there as well. It just adds more to the kind of match day experience.
Yeah, it certainly does. David Christie tuning in from Ecuador once again. The Ecuador True Blues. What a great result, Derek. Hope you and Euan are well. Yeah, we certainly are, especially after a Rangers win last night. Point here from Ross Clark just on Butland, Euan. I think for me, he's been the best of the 9 summer signings so far by quite a stretch, I would say. What would the score have been without Butland last night? As you touched on, he made a terrific save in the first half. Also made a couple of good stops in the second as well. He's just so commanding at the back there, and it just breeds a sense of calm in the back line, doesn't it? And I know Rangers, in terms of the defensive record domestically, I think it's the best, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, folks. But having that commanding goalkeeper at the back certainly makes you feel a lot more comfortable when balls are getting flung into the box.
Yeah, he's been really good. He's incredibly assured.
Yeah.
Coming off his line as well to take crosses is a big upgrade on last season as well. And I don't think he's made a mistake here, has he? I can't think of one off the top of my head. He's been really reliable.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry.
Yeah, but the PSV one, he should have just put the laces through it. But I mean, it's Connor Goldson, I think, takes the majority of the blame of that one. But he's not really had many clangers. Touchwood, that continues.
Yeah, he's easily been the best signing of the summer so far, and he had big gloves to step into, as you say, or to fit his hand. I don't know what the saying would be for gloves rather than boots, but in Alan McGregor, and he's came in seamlessly. I think he's an upgrade on Alan McGregor from last season, certainly.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's been good. I mean, 2 clean sheets in a row. It's important that I think Rangers try and build on that and get a couple more across the next week. It's an old cliche, but if you don't concede goals, you've got a much better chance of winning games. And
you only score one.
Only score one, which happened last night. I thought there was a couple of solid saves last night. I don't think there was anything really spectacular from Butland, but he just looked incredibly assured, and he speaks really well as well.
Yeah.
I think he's bought into Rangers as a football club and the values and the traditions, and I don't think there can be any negativity over the signing of Jack Butland at the moment.
Yeah. I've been very impressed with him so far. Michael Beale was actually asked about Butland in the post-match press conference. He says, as he's shown that he's a Rangers player, and he said, you sit with every player and talk things out. He was taking over from a legend at the club, and there was always going to be a lot of eyes on him. I've known Jack for years, and he's had an opportunity to play here and to show his quality. It's very, very early in his Rangers career, and I'm delighted to get him on a free transfer. Yeah, very good bit of business that by Rangers. So looking ahead then to Sunday, Euan, do you envisage many changes to the starting 11? I know Redfan, of course, will be available again. He's not in the European squad. Does he come back in? Do you make alterations in midfield and up front?
Interesting question. I think Redvan will start. There's obviously the cup game against Livy, isn't there, as well?
Yes.
I think about Suter coming in, but you kind of want Davies and Goldson to kind of building that partnership. So
yeah, I wouldn't change that.
No, I wouldn't change it for the weekend. Maybe you might see Suter come in against Livingston, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But Motherwell's away record is really, really good under Stuart Kettlewell. Like, it's scarily good. You know, it's probably as good as Rangers' away record since Kettlewell came in. But they'll be up for the game. They also had that disappointing result against St Mirren last week. I watched a bit of that game. I thought they were unlucky to lose that. So, you know, you can't underestimate Motherwell at all. It's important that Rangers build on the last two performances and maybe a couple of changes in the attacking areas. You know, you might see. I thought Sam Lammers, who actually looked pretty promising off the bench last night. He's obviously not had the start that he wanted to his Rangers career. So could you see Lammers come in? Dessers, could Dessers come in at the weekend, or do you stay? Do you stay with Roof? I'm just thinking about the amount of games that Roof's played in quick succession after his injury troubles. But you might see a couple of changes, but I don't think there'll be too many at all. Just because, you know, with the number of players out, with Neil out, with Cantwell out, with Rask out, it kind of limits your options to kind of rotate and freshen things up.
Yeah, I would bring Redvan in. I think would I keep him for Livingston? I'm not so sure. We'll have our predicting teams. Myself and Chris will be on the website later on. Well, I think it'll be tomorrow, folks. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll have a good think who we would like to start for Rangers against Motherwell, but the result is mightily important. He needs to continue. I said after the Celtic game, he needs pretty much a perfect run until the next Old Firm game. For me, and that means winning at the weekend. It's no good beating St Johnstone and beating Betis and then tripping up against Motherwell. But in terms of that away record, Timothy Sharp says unbeaten in 15 games, which seems absolutely incredible for a team like Motherwell, doesn't it? It's quite eye-opening. Have they came to Ibrox during that time, though? Have they been to Ibrox and picked up a point? Off the top of my head, I'm not so sure. But I'm really hoping that Rangers do the business on Sunday. And as Bob says, needs to be an attacking setup against Motherwell. Get right at them. It'll be a different game, though, Euan, because Betis, of course, coming. Pellegrini likes to attack and very open last night. That's what makes these European games quite good to watch, especially if you're a neutral watching it. I know there was many people watching the PSV game at Ibrox and saying how great a contest it was, but for fans that are pitching up at Ibrox every other week, they are expecting teams such as Motherwell to come up and shut up shop. So it'll be a different challenge for Rangers come Sunday.
Yeah, completely. Motherwell kind of play. I'm pretty sure they play a back five. So it's like, you know, they've got kind of three physical centre backs, and they've got the wing backs. Stephen O'Donnell plays on the right hand side, and they're quite a combative team. You've got kind of Callum Slattery who plays in centre mid, who's in really good form. Lennon Miller, who I think is a player that Rangers should have an eye on. In terms of, I seen a little bit of criticism on social media last night that there was no Scottish player in Rangers.
Yeah, I was thinking that during the game. I was like, when was the last time that? Surely it's happened before, but I was thinking that myself. Of course, no Ryan Jack in that starting 11, and I'm not too sure when the last time that occurred, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly can't remember off at the top of my head, but if McGregor being back for the last couple of seasons, you'd think that would ensure that there was a Scottish player in most weeks. So it's probably been quite a while, but yeah, I think you should be looking at the young Scottish talent coming through. I think Lennon Miller is one to keep an eye on. Yeah, I think he's really good. He's come into that Motherwell team this season in 16, 17 and not looked out of place at all. And Bailey Rice coming through as well. That's another Scottish player that will have ambitions of becoming a regular starter at Rangers. I mean, I think ideally you'd want Scottish players in your team. I don't really read as much into it as some people do. It's modern football. I think times have changed a little bit as well. But yeah, I mean, Rangers just need to win the weekend. Just keep winning games. Alan McCoy said it last night. The best thing to do is keep winning games, and that will kind of relieve some of the pressure on Michael Beale. But I think performance levels are important as well, and I think last night, certainly in the second half, was much improved from Rangers.
Yeah, and talking about no Scots in the lineup, of course, the last game, St Johnstone, the starting 11, there was no Scottish players in there, and none came on either as well. So, yeah, I don't think that it's not like back in the days when I'm sure when the first time it happened was when Advocat was the manager, and there was no Scots at one point in the side. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Do Rangers need more Scottish players in that squad, really, more than anything else? There is a lot of British players in there, of course, but do they need more Scots? Well, they certainly didn't need more last night. Good result, picking up the 1-0 win over Real Betis to kick off the Europa League campaign with a much-needed 3 points. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. As Euan mentioned earlier on, there is no press conference with Michael Beale today, but there is that embargoed section that he carried out at an extended press conference last night, and we'll post that around noontime. So keep your eyes peeled for that. For the YouTube members as well, myself and Ali will be on doing the Q&A, the weekly Q&A show around about 3:30 this afternoon as well. So if you want to get your questions in, then please do so. We'll get through as many as we possibly can. Huge thanks to Euan and for everyone for interacting with the channel as ever, and we'll speak to you a little later.